Hey, it's Tricia here at Club Scrap. Welcome to the Under the Sea Card Kit Assembly Workshop. I'm gonna go ahead, as always, and set aside all the beautiful ribbon, the embellishments, the envelopes that came in your kit. Got some charms here. I'm gonna set those aside. I've got my instructions all printed out. You don't have to print these. You can follow along with the device or whatever works for you. And here are the beautiful papers. Now, to get things going, I'm using, as always, my 12-inch guillotine trimmer here. And I've actually recently made a brand new accordion pocket file. The other one I had was really looking a little tattered. So I made this one out of our duplex paper. This was from the fairy tale kit, and really worked nice as a replacement for the original that I had. So if you don't have your accordion pocket file made yet, you want to take a little bit of time. I've got a video to help you create that and a little starter kit for you as well. Okay, so our normal procedure is to go ahead and place all of the papers that we call for the trimming process into the order they'll be trimmed. So I'm going to take this beautiful paper collection here, fan it out a little bit, and hold it up and off my work surface. And I want you to find one sheet of this deep blue, really nice heavy paper with a gorgeous texture to it. And then we have a sea green. There are several different like aquas and greens in here. So make sure you grab the one that has more of a gold tone to it. Then a metallic aqua. This is obviously very metallic. It's a stunning sheet of paper if you ask me. And then just one of the regular aquas. So this one does not have a metallic sheen to it. It still is 80-pound cover, but it has a little bit of a mottled texture. It's really highly pressed. Okay, we're gonna find all those colors again in the same order. So the deep blue, and then another sea green, the aqua metallic, and the aqua. Those will cover the first two trimming diagrams, believe it or not. Then we're gonna do a plain white and then the two prints. I'm gonna take these prints and put them face down on my trimmer. Then the cut-apart that has a repetition of a lot of the same image and shape, and then the other cut-apart as well. Okay, so turn that face down, then flip everything back over so that that deep blue is on top, and let's get to the trimming process. And I'm going to take this paper, find the grain direction. It is important in the instructions. It indicates that the paper should dip easily from top to bottom in cooperation with the grain. And that will cooperate with the future folds of this paper. So when I hold it by this edge, it's very loose. This way it's extremely stiff. So make sure it's loose from top to bottom. This is a pretty heavy stock, so it might just take you a little bit to really determine that grain. Here, this is stiff. That's nice and loose, so I want it dipping top to bottom. And eventually I'll fold that card in the same direction. So let's trim at 11 3/4. We're gonna take a little bit off the edge here. And then all the way down to 5 1/2. With these two sheets of paper at the same time, make sure you're stabilizing firmly on this bar. And then rotate and cut at 8 1/2. That's gonna give us a card base. 2 card bases actually. So we'll set these aside to be scored. And then we do have this little rectangle shape here. We're going to trim this piece horizontally at 4 3/4. And then that gives us the rectangle and then a narrow strip here. Take both of these. They're going to go in pocket A. And then this longer 12-inch piece here is pretty wide. This is going to become a card base, so just set it aside, and the strips that remain, you can pop those into pocket D. We put any scrap or any unused piece in pocket D until we decide where we want to use it. I'm going to repeat all of that one more time. So again, check your grain on that metallic. It droops this way, and then same for the regular aqua. There we go. The more you identify that grain direction, the easier it gets. And then we're going to cut again at 11 3/4. And then 5 1/2. A rotation, and then cut at 8 1/2. And here's 2 more card bases, so I'll pile those up to the side. And then this one just gets trimmed, this rectangle, at 4 3/4. And pile all of these little pieces into pocket A again. Here's more card bases for the pile that will score, and then 2 little scraps for the D pocket. I know I'm probably going too fast for some of you. I realized that there is a playback setting on YouTube that you can use to slow me down. Otherwise, just kind of work at your own pace and pause as needed. Once again, blue gets checked for grain, dipping easily top to bottom, and same for the sea green. Now, we are moving on to step 2 of our trimming. So we trimmed 4 colors this way, and then 4 pieces this way. By doing that, we get a lot of variety in our color distribution. Our first cut this time is at 11.5. Make sure again that you stabilize. And then slide down to 8.5. Rotate the large piece and we'll cut at 11.25. And 7. Now, these 2 pieces become card bases, so I'll set them aside to be scored. And then we have this larger rectangle that I'll trim horizontally at 6. Both of these pieces, these panels, go in pocket B. And then we have this narrow pair here. We're going to trim that at 5 3/4. This was kind of a little bonus. It's not really important, but we'll use it. All right, so this goes in pocket B. And then we have these little guys. You know, they're so tiny. We could probably pitch them, but what the heck? Put them in D. Now I've got this strip. It's 3 by 12 right now. Let's trim it into 4 squares of the same size. All right, that's going to give us a 9, 6, 3. That divides it into 4 pieces. 9, 6, 3. All the numbers divisible by 3. And we're going to stack up the squares that we made, and those go in pocket C. And once again, we've got a nice little strip here. I did end up using them, but for now, they'll go in D. We get to do that one more time with 2 more sheets, so check your grain, dipping top to bottom. Same here. And we're going to cut once again at 11.5. And 8.5. Rotate, cut at 11.25. And 7. All right, here are some card bases. Those will get into the score pile. And then horizontally here on this one at 6. Pile the larger and the smaller rectangles going in pocket B with the others. And then we've got the narrow strip here that I've found a home for, so we'll cut horizontally at 5 3/4. Notice how I'm going a little lower on my trimmer base, lining up the top edge of the strip with the bottom edge of the inch mark here so I can seal it a bit better. 5 3/4 and pocket B for the larger pieces, and then we got the little guys in D. Let's make some more squares. We'll cut at all the numbers divisible by 3. So that's 9, 6, and 3. Okay, all of this going in pocket C, and the last strip in D. Wow, that was all on page 1. Let's move on, page 2. This time we have 3 more plain papers to trim, and it's only 1 of each style. So the white, now we're going to check grain once again, dipping top to bottom. We'll cut at 11, 10, 7.5, 5, and 2.5. Okay, so we made a bunch of strips. Let's take the 4 strips that are the same, and we're going to set those aside to be scored. Then we have 2 more 1-inch strips. We're going to cut these at 7. And once again, you can do it here or here. I guess I can kind of see. 7 and 3.5. Okay, so you have 2 sets that are the same size. These are kind of critical pieces right here, and they're going to go in pocket C. And then these last 2 longer pieces are scraps, believe it or not. Now take 1 print. Let's see here. I guess it doesn't really matter how. I'm going to do it this way. Okay, so I'm going to cut at 11.25. The grain direction doesn't matter. We're not folding this. 11.25. and 6. So all the way down to 6. And then I'm going to cut at 11 on the 6-inch piece, 8 1/4, 5 1/2, and 2 3/4. Okay, let's gather up the 4 pieces that are the same size, and those are going to all go in pocket B. And then we have a little scrap here off the end going in D. This one we're going to trim into 3 equal pieces. So we're going to cut at 8 and 4. And that gives us 3 nice panels going in pocket A. Long scrap here going in D. Next, I'm going to kind of do the same direction, I guess. I will trim this second print here differently now at 11 1/2 and 8 1/4. Rotate, we'll cut at 9 3/4, 6 1/2, and 3 1/4. That gives me 3 panels the same size going in pocket C. Then we have this smaller strip that I'll cut horizontally at 5 1/2. And this piece goes in A. And we have a scrap for the D pile. Now we have this larger strip here. We're going to trim horizontally at 8 1/4. And again, this goes in pocket C with others like it. D and D. We've arrived at the Cutaparts, and it's our tradition to print a slightly larger piece of art, and then you as the final user will take care of the last trims required. Now in that corner there you see the plus sign. That's a registration mark or a cutting guide, and you're going to find one in every corner. So what I want you to do is line up that plus sign with the edge of your blade on the trimmer. For this first cut, it's kind of hard to see. So I'm just going to err generously on my cut and go back and do one last cleanup when I'm done rotating around the whole piece. So after that, if I rotate, now I can see both at the top where that cut lines up with the blade, and then down at the bottom, which is kind of off camera here, but down here in the corner is where I'm looking. I can see my blade and I can see the mark. So I will make sure that's nicely lined up and then trim and rotate again, lining it up this time. And here I should be able to even look to the left and see the 12 inches there while I'm lined up. Oh, it's really, really beautiful cuts this time. So I'll look one more time. It looks really good. Maybe one more check to see that we're at 12 inches, and it literally takes off a hair. One of the things I appreciate greatly about this trimmer is that you can do that. I mean, look at that. That's amazing. For a trimmer of this cost, to have it perform that well for that long is really pretty amazing. Now let's rotate back so that the text is right side up. The Have a Wonderful Day strips are on the right, and we're going to cut at 11, and then 8 1/4, 5 1/2, and 2 3/4. Okay, now take this piece and rotate it. We're going to trim on those same measurements again. 11, 8 1/4, 5 1/2, 2 3/4. And stack these up. Now they land in the order that they'll be used. So someone like you deserves every happiness, not only on your birthday, but every day of the year. All of these pieces are going to be used on one card. At this point, if you wanted to, you could take a corner chomper on the 1/4 inch setting and probably do all 4 of these rounded corners just on the side. This is squared in the artwork. It's squared. It's rounded on the right edge, square on the left. So I just got that done right away and pop those all together in pocket C. Now let's take the next strip and we'll do the same thing. 11, 8 1/4, 5 1/2, 2 3/4. Stack up the 4 pieces. As long as they're all together and they're going to be used together, let's round the 2 corners on the right. Keep them together in the pocket. Okay. These other little guys, you can pop those smaller pieces in pocket D if you wish. And we'll repeat again now. 11, 8 1/4, 5 1/2, 2 3/4. I made an error on my sample set, so just be aware that the rounded corners here, since this is going to become a vertical waterfall card, we're going to round the bottom corners. So just be aware of that, like I was not the first time I made them. And we'll repeat one last time. 11, those magical numbers. 8 1/4, 5 1/2, 2 3/4, and stack all the same size pieces and bottom corners on the 1/4 inch setting. It's impressive that with very little manpower, I can round 4 layers of cardstock at once, and that's going to go in pocket C. Then the 2 little scrappies go in D, and we're on to the next sheet of Cutaparts. Oops, I'm sorry, my apologies. We did have one more strip here. We're going to trim that horizontally at 6. These are the innies for our Slimline cards, both going into C. Okay, another perimeter cleanup here. So again, you've got your little hash marks, so line that up. If you want to err again on the side of a generous cut and then make a final sliver on your last rotation, that's perfectly acceptable. So just go ahead and clean up all those edges. Okay, once you have it all trimmed up, I'm going to place the narrowest strip on my right. So that would be the happy birthday in your left and the pieces that say pull. Okay, so our first cut here looks like 10 1/2. And then 7 1/2. And 4. Give that a rotation. Make sure "and age gracefully" is on your right. We'll go at 10 1/2. 9, 6 3/4, 4 1/2, and 2 1/4. Okay, so this is B, 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 B. All the pieces that are the same size going into pocket B. And then we have these 2 more narrow pieces going into C. Okay, now this next piece, the word "thinking of you," I'm thinking of you, should be on the right. So again, narrow pieces fall off the edge first. Our first cut's at 10 3/4, and then 9 1/2, 8, 6, 4, and 2. All right, I just tend to pick up all the pieces that fell and then deal them out. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The first 4 are all the same size going into pocket B. And then we have these 3 going into A. Next, we have a strip. Looks like these get cut all the same size. So that'll be 9, 6, and 3. We've done that a few times today. And all of these go in pocket A. And now we have our final piece. Have the best birthday ever can be on your right. We'll go at 9, 6 3/4, 4 1/2, and 2 1/4. I'm going to take the first 2 that are the same, grab my corner chomper and round just the bottom corners. Grab the next 2 that are the same. Of course, this corner rounding is optional, and I'm going to round the right side corners. Okay, so that's the difference. You get your bottom and the right, and then they all go in pocket C. Just getting some prep work done here, and then you have one last innie for set A. Whew, I think that's it for our trimming. Amazing. So at this point, I'm going to swap. I'm going to take my accordion pocket file and just release it from the Velcro here, set my trimmer aside, and now I've got a score pal and a stylus tool, a round tip stylus I prefer to use for the scoring. It seems to work really nice. And I'm going to begin with the 4 white pieces that we trimmed. They're all the same size at 2.5 by 12. These get scored at 7, 7 3/4, 8 1/2, and 9 1/4. If you don't have a score pal, this is super handy for just accurate, really well done scores. So we're gonna repeat that again. 7, 7 3/4, 8 1/2, 9 1/4. One more time. 7, 7 3/4, 8 1/2, 9 1/4. And our fourth. Now, if you're first time using it, just engage in the notch at the measurement indicated. Pull back with some pressure. Better to go too light and repeat than go too hard and tear the paper. 7, 7 3/4, 8 1/2, 9 1/4. So that's a score line every 3/4 of an inch. And these are used in card set C. So if you want to file those, you can. But remember, the paper is the same width as the folder. So just put them off, kind of laying on their side a little bit. Next in my stash, I've got a 7 by 8 1/2. This will be the Slimline. So when you score this, make sure the paper is in there vertically with the 7 up here. And we're going to score it in half at 3 1/2. Now, every paper is a little different. Feels lighter. This is more heavy. So make sure you adjust the amount of pressure you're using for each different type of paper. Again, that's 3 1/2. And then on this laid finish here, 3 1/2 as well. Wow, so you can hear that texture. Those are your 4 Slimline card bases going in pocket C. We're gonna score this next set of papers. It's 6 1/4 by 12. We'll score it 4 1/2 and 9. Repeating for the remaining 3. 4 1/2 and 9. And in your pile, just make sure you grab the other 2 just like it in sea green. 4 1/2 and 9. And then this late finish blue, 4 1/2 and 9. These 2 are 12 inches long, and they're going to be the card bases for set B. So I'll just file that in here at an angle. And lastly, we have these 4 little guys. We're going to score them horizontally at 4 1/4. Now, cards that just get folded in half do not need to be scored. But especially for these heavier weight papers, I do like to have them scored. So again, that's 4 1/4. I'm going to set my score pal aside, and now all of our prep work is done. To start, I'll get to page 3 of my instructions and grab everything out of pocket A. So all of the pieces have been prepared for all 4 of the cards we're making in this set, and that's the efficiency and beauty of the process. I just had someone who reached out on our Facebook group and said how much they appreciate all of the planning that goes into making this so that the cards come together so beautifully. The first thing you can do in this set is just take the card base that we've scored, find the bump, and put that bump on the inside of our fold. Line up the corners neatly, and if you want, you can give that a burnish. So fold all of those card bases. And then I also like to organize everything else in the pocket. So I've got panels of different sizes. And then I can grab my sentiments here. We've got these little narrow strips. Okay, so I'm kind of organized here where I can then rebuild what I see in my instructions. So the base of the first card looks like it's the metallic. The second one is going to be the sea green. Then we have the deep blue and the aqua. Okay, now I can take some panels, these larger panels, and distribute them. 1, 2, 3, and this last one just gets a strip. Then we have slightly smaller panels, so we're going to go with the navy and the metallic and the aqua and the sea green. How about some sentiments? How about I see it's your birthday. Well, hello there. For he's a jolly good fellow, and I see it's your special day. Each one of these has a little anchoring strip as well. Looks like I used the aqua, the deep blue, the sea green, and then the metallic. That way, all the distribution of the colors has occurred past all the cards. Then have a totally awesome day. Thinking of you. Congratulations, and have the best birthday ever. Now, in the instructions, I also show the inside of each card and how I incorporated elements from that D pocket into the cards, and that's completely optional, and there's no science to it. You can do whatever you like. That's going to be designer's choice, and as a matter of fact, it's all designer's choice. Now, for purposes of demonstration, I'm not going to complete all 4 of these cards because you are able to repeat the process. So I'm taking everything from the 3, from card 2, 3, and 4, and I'm going to just load it into an envelope. So all the pieces are ready to go for easy assembly later on for me anyway. And now I'm going to grab some of this ribbon and scissors. I do have a scissors I reserve only for fabric. It's made by Singer. Got it online. It's really nice. I'm going to cut a length of ribbon just a little wider than the strip here at the bottom. And this ribbon is a grosgrain satin blend. Really, really pretty. And let's see, what else do I need? How about some foam adhesive circles? I love these for just attaching anything and everything. And if I'm feeling particularly conservative, I can actually cut the foam in half, preserving the little pull tab on each one of these. And I can distribute these to my main sentiment here. And then I can easily grab the tab on each piece. So some adhesive squares don't release quite as easily, which is one of the things I like about them. So I can place this centered, looking at the margins at the top, the left, and the right. If you wanted to use a grid ruler to help you do that, you could. In fact, I'll grab one for the bottom strip here. I'm going to apply some adhesive to the narrow strip. I just love how easy these cards come together though, really. And I don't know, maybe 3/8 of an inch up from the bottom. Notice I'm going to take my ruler and place it where I want it and then rest this against the ruler's edge. And that way I know it's nice and straight on my card base. So with the ribbon that we trimmed earlier, I'm going to check the grain of the ribbon. Do you see how the ribbon is dipping downward? If I just hold it in my hand, I don't know if you can see that. Maybe at this angle you can. Whereas here it curls upward. I want it to curl downward onto the card the way the ribbon wants to go, rather than fighting the grain direction of the ribbon. Bring the ends around to the back and just tape them in place. If you want to use your regular, you know, 2-way adhesive, that's fine too. Okay, I mean, this just could not be easier. I'll add some adhesive to this and then center it onto my panel. Again, if you prefer, you could bring in your ruler and just to make sure that you're 1/4 of an inch on all edges. Sometimes the ribbon can inhibit that, so maybe we should go from the short edge where we don't have a ribbon, 1/4 inch reveal. That's 2 cubes on the ruler. Now I know it's perfectly level and centered. Then I can go ahead and center this onto my folded card base. How easy is that? You did all the prep work. It's all done. Before I add this embellishment, I like to finish up my card before I put the things that need to dry. So I'm going to grab from pocket D. We threw in all of this stuff. This doesn't have to be thrown out quite yet. In fact, I threw away very little. I used almost every little scrap. And for this one, I'm going to take one of these more highly contrasted little scrap pieces and my sentiment, and I'll add some adhesive and use it as an anchoring point. Let's see, this way maybe, right about there. And then, nice, just a little something extra for the inside. For the outside then, just a little tip for you. I keep a desktop style tape dispenser handy at all times, and then this is where my bookbinding glue goes. And I have the lid on at all times so that it doesn't plug up, but no guarantees. First time I'm using it today. Oh, good. I have some glue coming out of that nozzle. That's amazing. All right, so this is a felty backing on this fabric puffy shell. So I'm just gonna make sure I get plenty of adhesive on there. And then place this in the lower right corner here. And since it's kind of an uneven surface, I suggest that you take your tape dispenser then, which is weighted, and just put it right on top of the card, set it aside until it dries. And then the remaining 3 little pieces here can even be added to our envelope of supplies for this card. And these are ready to go. And they all assemble the same exact way. Now let's move on to set B. Again, we've got 4 cards. They all are assembled the same fashion, so it's not rocket science, but I'll walk you through it, okay? I'm gonna take my pieces out of the pocket, labeled B. And one of the things you can do again is take the card bases that we've scored. Now, in this, I got a tip for you. Here we have the bump of the score lines, and they're the 2 equal areas and then a narrower scored area. So for the equal sized areas, I'm going to fold that first and bring the edge of this flap next to the score line. I'm not sure if you can see the score line or not, but I'm going to bring them right next to it, not on it. So I might even just be erring a little bit on this end, but that's okay, because then when I go to fold over to make a tri-fold card base, it fits a little bit better. So maybe you can see the score line nicely on this metallic, maybe. You see the score line right there? That's the bump. So I'm going to bring this flap next to the bump, not over it, okay? The goal is not to center it. Now you notice on this end, you see I have a little bit of a shortcoming there with my score line. That's okay, because it's still going to default to however I crease it. And now this flap does not get caught on the edge of the other paper. I hope that is helpful to you and that it makes perfect sense, but that's something that I found just by making this card structure. There's got to be an advantage to watching the video, right? It's tips like that. I just don't even know how to put that in a written instructions. Okay, then I'll take my card bases and also organize things in the pocket. We're already pretty organized, so it's not too bad to get these all set up for distribution. And then I look at my instructions for how I used all of the colors. Again, those are just suggestions. You can incorporate the colors however you wish. And it looks like my first piece is the metallic. Then I have the deep blue, the sea green, and the aqua. Okay, can you see all those all right? Sure, pretty good. Now, each card has like a panel that goes on the inside of the flap. So the second flap of the card. So this one's sea green. This one I think is going to be the aqua metallic, and then the aqua and the deep blue. Aren't these papers just the bomb? So stunning. Then a print. Now, depending if you want to put the deepest blue with this one, maybe something a little brighter over here. It's just designer's choice again, right? Each one gets a little strip. So I'm going to go deep blue here, aqua metallic, and sea green. Getting those colors distributed nicely. Now we have aqua. So the fourth color is incorporated in these smaller panels. Sea green, deep blue, and metallic. For the outside sentiments, we've got with sincere sympathy, a happy birthday, horsing around never gets old, you're only young once. Okay, so with the sympathy card, wrapping you in love at a time when words fall short. Happy birthday gets, I want to hold your hand, because it's an octopus. Isn't that fun? Horsing around, have fun. Have a fun birthday. And for the ship, you're only young once, and that ship has sailed. Happy birthday. All right, so it looks like we're going to be making a sympathy card together. We can always use those, unfortunately. And the art is just so beautiful and appropriate. I'll grab one A6 envelope and I'll insert the remaining 3 cards in there. I'm going to keep one of the laser cut shells out and then the rest going up in the envelope to stay organized. And here we go with our set B assembly. I think I'll begin with just adding this inside panel. That's easy. I don't think that's the order I have it in my instructions, but it's okay. Just make sure you're level. Now, if you close the card, and here you can put adhesive on the back of the strip. So this is the open reveal. I'm just gonna center this bottom, the long edge and the right edge. Just to allow that third color to be incorporated in. And let's see, next, I'm gonna take the sentiment. Order does matter a little bit in this one. Take the sentiment and nest it onto the corresponding panel. It should match perfectly if everything went right during your trimming. Okay, and then this gets centered on here, but not before I do something else, okay? This shell, I have it planned that it kind of gets sandwiched in between those two layers of that panel. And we have to be careful and aware before we attach the shell to make sure that it doesn't extend beyond the edge of the card. So I just have to be careful. And I think, you know, here we have these lower laser cuts in there. So if it's centered without being able to see through any of those smaller cuts, we're good. I'm gonna double check again to make sure it doesn't go past the edge, and it doesn't. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab a little bit of tape, and I can triple check one last time, looking good. So now I can take my regular adhesive, and that's our ATG gun, and I'm gonna center this piece onto the printed mat. Nice. Now I'm going to incorporate a little bit of ribbon, and this just kept it really simple so that I wouldn't add knots to the card. That makes it more difficult for mailing. And I'll grab some tape again. Just going to do a wrap, a simple basic ribbon wrap, because it's such beautiful ribbon, right? This metallic is just beautiful. Oh, I only needed one piece of tape there. And then I'll run it down the long edges with my ATG adhesive transfer gun and center this onto the left flap of the card. As far as the inner sentiment, you can either put it here or you can put it all the way inside. I ran out of Cutapart space to have extra things for the inside, so you have plenty of room to write. And I just put this kind of at the same vicinity as the original sentiment on the flap, so it doesn't peek through. You don't want to be too far to the right with it. Isn't that a beautiful card? Now, I realized I haven't been showing you my other samples, so let's just go back to this rest of the cards in this set. Let's see, you've got the sympathy one that we made together, and then here I used the sea green satin ribbon, and it's, of course, there's plenty of ribbon to go around here. And I'm serious, we got a lot. I love this one, and that ship has sailed. You can write your apology on the inside of this card. Plenty of room to write there for saying that. I want to hold your hand. So much fun on these 4 cards. So that is set B, and I'll just review set A. Again, all of my finished samples incorporate the foam adhesive on the mount, and then some of the D scraps on the inside here. I took a longer strip, trimmed it to 5.5 inches. Here I used the anchoring as we did together, and same on this one as well. Okay, that was A. Sorry, I forgot to show you those earlier. And now I'm going to set this aside, and let's empty pocket C for our fun Slimline Waterfall card. There's a lot of stuff in that C pocket. Make sure you get it all. And then go ahead and organize it by size. And you can also fold all of your card bases just simply in half. Make sure you bury the bump of the score line on the inside of the fold. One thing I did notice about this laid finish paper is that when you do burnish it, it does kind of scar the paper a little bit. So one tip would be to stack all the card bases before you burnish, or if you want to burnish directly onto the blue, cover it with your instructions, and then the paper will not scar with the bone folder. The scoring will be even worse if you're using a plastic bone folder, so really make sure you protect it that way. Let's see, I've got a big mess of pieces still here. Let me get those organized. I'm gonna take 1 second and show you what we're making. This is the horizontal card, the waterfall card that has all those panels. And then we have a vertical card as well. So again, I've said it before, but don't let this worry you. I've got it all planned out, so it should be relatively easy to assemble. the base of our cards now. We're going to start out with the sea green here and the horizontal, and then a metallic. And then we have the aqua. Let's see, I'm not sure how to arrange these. I have more horizontal space. How about aqua and then the navy here. Then dealer's choice, you can distribute these gorgeous printed panels however you like. And then each one gets this is kind of the mechanism of the whole operation, is these long pieces. If you want, you can go ahead and just maybe, so it fits, maybe fold on one of those score lines. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Each piece will also, each card will also get one of these little narrow white strips, also an important part of the mechanism, even though it's a lowly little white piece of paper. Okay, now we have all of these colors going on here. I'm gonna put 2 metallic on this one, and then also 2 navy. So we're incorporating more colors. Then I'm gonna go 2 sea green and 2 aqua on this one. 2 metallic. And again, this is a completely designer's choice, and 2 navy on this one. And then 2 green and 2 aqua on the 4th card. Okay, now for our sentiments. The Sea Turtleology one. Go with the flow, move at your own pace, come out of your shell. Those are the vertical ones. And I kept those in the order, which is awesome. Horizontal, get someone like you deserves every happiness, not only on your birthday, but every day of the year, times 2. I lost a piece somewhere in there. There we go. These horizontal cards get the pull that goes to the right. So 1, 2, and then the vertical cards gets the pull tab that pulls downward. Inners, sentiments here, the horizontal ones get the have a wonderful birthday. The Sea Turtleology gets the and age gracefully. Now I'm going to take all of those pieces and put them together in our slimline envelope, everything except what's needed for card number 1. I am so excited to show you how easy, incredibly easy this is going to be. I want to make sure I get my steps, assembly steps in order here. So I think one of the easiest things you can do is just go ahead and center your panel onto the card base. That's all there is to it. Not hard at all. Whew, that's over. Okay, now we have these little panels here, and we're going to do the same treatment. These are square, and I'm going to take my corner rounder on the 1/4 inch setting, and I'm going to round the corners, but only 2 of them, 2 adjacent corners. And as you know, I've already rounded the corners on these panels. Okay, then I can decide what colors I want to use for my cards for these nesting panels. So let's just go alternating. If you wanted to, you could do all the same colors in each card. Again, totally your choice. Let's get these in order. So someone like you deserves every happiness, not only on your birthday, but every day of the year. So everything's in order, and I'll just take a second. And, you know, you can assembly line style this for all 4 cards at once if you want to save a lot of time by just getting all of this prep work done. And then each piece will get centered on the panel, and make sure you're aligning those corresponding rounded corners on each one of these. On the white strip, we have more score lines. So we folded on one of those. We buried the bump of the score. So I'm going to do the same for the other 3 score lines. So there are 4 total, and they all kind of get folded inward. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can almost already see the direction we're going with how this piece of paper will help us create the mechanism for our card. Okay, so let's place this piece of paper horizontally on our work surface with the bumps of the score lines facing down and this 2 3/4 inch area on the right. I'm going to take some bookbinding glue and apply it to just this scored area here. You could also use your regular adhesive, but I do like one thing about this is that with the wet glue, I have some time to make a minor tweak to my placement. Now, this is the 4th panel, but every day of the year. I'm going to center it from top to bottom on that adhesive area, and with the edge of my piece lined up with the edge of that first score line. If you want to bend it back, you can. But basically, that's where that's going to go, okay? Right along the edge of that score. Then I can add some adhesive to the next scored area. And this is where I take the 3rd panel and place that right next to that score line. And you want to check for alignment along the top and bottom edges here. You can adjust again because you're using a liquid glue. Adjustment is possible. Repeat that now for the remaining 2 squares. So I'm going to add just, that's a 3/4 inch scored area. Put it right up against the edge of the score line. Double check by bending back if you want. And line it up with the previously placed pieces. And one last area for our, what now will be our first sentiment. Someone like you goes right there. And again, I'm going to bend it back. There, we got a good start here. Remember when I told you that we have this little 3-inch piece? This is what gets attached to the back of the last square. So what I can do is flip this over. I'm going to put some adhesive on this edge and center it left to right on that piece. So it's just lined up with that bottom edge of the first square we installed, and it extends past the edges, and it's supposed to do that. Now let's fold this back, and then here we have this remaining piece. I'm going to come in with my corner chomper and just round the corner of this piece. I incorporated the whale tail charms into each one of my cards, and it's up to you how you, if and how you want to go about doing that. I keep a little mouse pad handy, and then I just have my own little stash of brads. If you don't happen to have some mini brads handy, you could always use a piece of thread or jute or anything, and just kind of decide where you want this to be on your pull tab. Let's see, it's going to be to the side. I kind of put it right next to the octopus here. So I'll pierce through, and the reason I'm doing this now and not later is that I want the back of the prongs of my brad to be secured between layers of paper so that the brad doesn't get caught on my mechanism anywhere. And I thought it'd be a fun way to use this charm. Sweet. Now the other thing you can do is take some of the ribbon, and I do really like this option, is I'm going to trim off a small piece, and again, checking for grain, I want to fold it in the direction it wants to fold. I'm going to make a little loop out of the ribbon, and I will attach it to, because we're pulling this way in the same direction we're pulling, and I'll tape this right to the back of the piece. I have the uneven ends, so that kind of works nice. Now this is designed, of course, to fit perfectly within that area. I mean, I can't believe how this all worked out. This was just great. I racked my brain a lot with the numbers to make all of the computations work, and boy, does it work. I just love how this mathematically came together. Okay, here we are. This is not bad, right? I mean, I hope you agree that the assembly was relatively easy. Now, here's the crazy part. This is the only thing that's going to hold this entire mechanism to the card. Don't put glue anywhere else except here and here. If you put glue anywhere in this area, your waterfall will not fall or do anything. It will just be a funny looking pile of squares stuck together forever. So here and here only. Then I'm going to center this visually onto my card base and just make sure that these ends kind of line up onto, they go all the way to the edge of the panel. I made it do that because I wanted as much surface area as possible, not only to decorate, but to kind of hold it in place. Now, before you go crazy, you know, let it dry because it is a liquid glue. Here you can take your sentiment and maybe, I don't know, a contrasting strip of paper. And you could trim that with your paper trimmer. I don't have mine handy, so I'll just use this. I'm breaking my own rules and using it for my fabric scissors for paper. But oh, and I need to load some glue into this too. So here, I'll just take this long strip that's now 8.5 inches-ish, and I'm gonna use my ruler to make sure it's level at the bottom of the card. And I use my glue because it's just a little narrow for, and I can just add my sentiment, have a wonderful day. Now I can pull this, and it works. It works, everybody. Yay! That is set C. Every card gets assembled the same way. So as a review, let's see, where's the one? This is the one we made together. And then we have another horizontal with the whale. Now here's the other thing. And Jacqueline really, you have to imagine the brain power required to design the art in such a way that this reveal, in spite of it, allows the artwork to be complete when the card is flat, and then each individual piece has a portion of the artwork. It really was an amazing collaboration. I'm so thankful for Jack that she was willing to work that through so that we could create these stunning waterfall cards for you. Here is the vertical version. I like how the whale tail is just hanging a little past the edge of the pull tab. And again, it works beautifully with the sentiments on the inside, even incorporated some ribbon, some of the print on this one. Here we go, same idea here. So those are, that's set C, and that's it. Unbelievable. In raw footage time, with everything and my little mistakes I'm gonna go and delete later, I still only have 56 minutes of footage. That's pretty good for this set of cards. I hope you enjoyed the class. If you like this theme, join me for the page kit assembly workshop as well. We're gonna make 8 gorgeous pages from the Under the Sea page kit. I'll see you there, but if not, I'll see you back here next month. Enjoy.